Well, let's bring on Sloan Simpson now from Sloan Brothers, who's been recording for over 2 decades. Until recently, none of his music had ever been heard. And he's just came out with his song, Ain't Goin Home This Christmastime. So, good afternoon, how are you today?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. So this song, Ain't Goin Home This Christmastime, it's quite cool, isn't it? Because it's envisioned as an imaginary B-side to Bruce Springsteen's Santa Claus is Coming to Town, right?
Yeah, and the way songs form in my head, they typically sound like another artist, and then as I get them, converted into the real world, they don't. Whether that's some of that is just because I don't sound like those artists, and some of it is me intentionally changing things, so that it's not reminiscent of someone. But in this case, I thought, wow, the subject. I like that the subject matter was dark, but the music was not.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, let's stick with this and see, sort of lean into that and see if I can make it come out. Obviously, my voice is nothing like Bruce Springsteen, but seeing what I could do with the arrangement to be reminiscent of that song.
And of course, Bruce Springsteen's cover of Santa Claus is Coming to Town was live. Did you try and give it a bit of a live feel?
Not particularly, and it's funny. My project Sloan Brothers is completely a home recording thing. Started during the pandemic and have no plans to play live. I'm 49 now, and I played guitar in my teens and 20s and stopped entirely when I was around 25 or so. I picked it back up in 2020 during the pandemic because I was bored. Before that, for many years, I would record live shows that, arranged with the artist's permission to record concerts. And I couldn't do that for several months and ran out of anything to do and started making my own music. So, I didn't really intentionally gear it towards live, although, of course, I'm basing it on a classic live track. So,
yeah.
But, I'm sure some of that feel seeps through.
And I don't know about you, but I think Bruce Springsteen's version of Santa Claus is Coming to Town is maybe the best version of it. I mean, I play it all the time on my show. Only in December, obviously, but right. It is a great song to have.
Yeah, and I've always had mixed feelings about Christmas songs as I aged and got a little too cool for it. You know what I mean? And that song sort of said helped me say, wait a minute, you can rock and have a really great track and also be about Christmas. So I finally let go of having any inhibitions about listening to Christmas music.
You say that a lot of your songs start out sounding like another artist. Do you still think that you have your own sound despite that?
Sort of, and it's I'm pretty new to writing. Before I quit playing guitar, I was strictly a guitar player. I didn't write anything at all. I was not a singer at all. So I'm kind of figuring out what my style is as I write. I've got one album released, a few singles, and I'm working on a second album. And over the course of that, a style has sort of gelled, instrumentation wise, for sure.
Yeah.
Vocally, I'm still maybe figuring out what I like to do the most.
Now, you're the sole constant member of Sloan Brothers. Why is it called Sloan Brothers when there doesn't appear to be any brothers?
My first song I made sort of by accident. Like I said, I was really bored. I've been trying to learn to mix recordings or get better at it. And I ran out of things to mix. And I thought, well, I'm going to write a song and that will give me something to practice mixing on. And I did almost everything by myself. At that time, I didn't have a guitar, so I had a friend play a guitar solo on it. And I decided I'd put it on Bandcamp, and I thought that would probably be the end of it. So the first thing, I didn't want to just call it Sloan Simpson. I don't know, if I don't look into something, I would assume that's a folk artist with a guitar, possibly. You know what I mean? As a first impression, I wanted it to sound like it was a band, even though it was not in real life. Sloan Brothers was the first thing that came to mind, and I had no plan to do more than the one song, or I probably would have, made a list and agonized over choosing just the right name and all of that. But something popped into my head, and I went with
Yeah. Sometimes there are bands out there, famous bands that people know, that you look up and it turns out it's actually just one guy. And I feel kind of betrayed when I found that out. Do you think that's correct, or is what you're doing still perfectly legitimate?
I hadn't really thought of it that way. When I moved to Athens, there's a lot of it here. There's a lot of in fact, there's a lot of bands that will share the same members, and the band name on the bill for that evening, it will just be a matter of whose material they're performing. And the same line. There's actually a few bands that would play on the same bill together, but one set would be under one name and with this person's featuring this person's music, and then there's a break and maybe some instruments are shuffled, but it's the same personnel playing someone else's material, and it's a different name. So maybe it's cheating a little bit, but it's kind of prevalent here in the Athens, Georgia music scene.
Yeah. And what are you up to for Christmas yourself? I mean, are you actually going home for Christmas in reality, or what's happening?
No, it's. I kind of feel almost feel a little guilty that it's if you read the lyrics, it sounds like I'm really upset about not having anywhere to go home. But in songwriting, most things are fair, and if you see a chance to play on an emotion, and if you can strengthen it a little bit, then maybe more than it is in real life, I think that's valid. And anyway, no, a lot of my music is tied into both of my parents having passed away over the past few years, and in particular this fall, my parents' house has been on for sale on the market. So and it looks to be selling. So this was, I already wasn't going to go home because there were no people there, but this year it was truly like there would not be an actual house to go to. I have a sister left. She does not live, where my parents are from either. So it was truly, I have no reason to go back there beyond a couple friends. And always, it's besides the theme of not having a family left, it's also about having kind of mixed feelings about where you come from, because I didn't once I became a teenager, I didn't like where I was from. Just culturally, there was not much going on there, and I always wanted to go, and I have always felt strange going home to visit family. So sort of some mixed psychology going on in there.
What else is coming up for you musically? Is this hopefully the start of many projects?
I hope so. I've got a good start on a second Sloan Brothers album, and I have another project with a friend, a side band called Obligatory Refractions. That's another home recording project, but that one is specifically with my friend Robert Schneider from the band Apples in Stereo, and he has helped me on some of the Sloan Brothers things, but those were my songs that I was asking him to contribute a vocal or a guitar or whatever it may be. With Obligatory Refractions, Robert and I specifically are co-writing together. So I've got essentially 2 albums in the works with 2 different projects, and the plan is to take them kind of slowly because I really enjoy the process. And I sort of write into the computer. The songs aren't necessarily fully formed. I will get the structure of a song and record the basics, and I will listen to that for a few days and think about it, and then I will record some more parts and think about that for a while. So that's all part of my process, and it's enjoyable. I'm still I'm sort of high risk for COVID, and I don't go out to live shows indoors currently, which was that was what I did most evenings before. This helps me to be happy and comfortable staying home. Gives me something to do when I run out of things on Netflix or or whatever that may be. Just pretty much every night I'm either doing a little bit of recording or a little bit of mixing on previous recordings. I'm trying to work on some other projects, mixing with for friends projects and things like that. So I'm trying to just get into every little bit of it that I can.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, where are we able to find this Christmas tune, Ain't Going Home This Christmastime?
SloanBrothers.bandcamp.com is my Bandcamp site, and it is also on every streaming service that I'm aware of. All the Spotify, Apple, YouTube, you name it, Amazon, lots more.
Excellent. Well, many thanks for talking to us today. It's been great to have you on.
Thanks for having me.